There's breaking news that's coming in. There wasn't just one, but there were two earthquakes that were reported. The epicenters were Nepal and Afghanistan. The magnitude of the earthquake that hit Nepal was 7.4 on the Richter scale. Earthquake that whose epicenter was in Afghanistan measured 6.9 on the Richter scale. This is an update that we're getting from the Ministry of Home Affairs. So two powerful earthquakes hit this entire Himalayan belt. One in Nepal measuring 7.4 on the Richter scale, the other measuring 6.9 on the Richter scale, which also explains why tremors were felt across North India, from Rajasthan in the west to West Bengal in the east. The entire North Indian region felt massive tremors. People started running out of their buildings after the buildings started trembling following those tremors. Jolts were experienced in all parts of North India, from Rajasthan, Delhi, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, right across to West Bengal. We're also trying to get an update from Jammu and Kashmir to figure out what exactly happened there and how people are reacting to the situation, considering that this entire belt has been affected by tectonic shifts. A powerful earthquake hits Nepal and Afghanistan. The epicenter of the earthquake in Nepal was Kodal, about 69 kilometers away from Kathmandu and 22 kilometers away from the Chinese border. The exact location of the Afghanistan earthquake is still not clear. We're trying to get pictures from the ground as well to understand the impact of the quake from these affected regions. Indrajit Kundu, our correspondent, is with us live from West Bengal. Indrajit, there's more bad news that's coming in. It wasn't one but two powerful earthquakes that hit this entire region. Nepal in towards the east and Afghanistan towards the west.
Well, that's right, Simi. If I can give you the sense, when the last earthquake struck Nepal, we spoken to the director of the Geological Survey of India in Kolkata. And the scientists were telling us that, as the Indian plate, the tectonic plate, was moving towards the Eurasian plate, that is in the north, and when these two plates collide, that is when all these earthquakes take place. Now, some of the scientists who were speaking to us off record was telling us that the chances of similar quakes taking place in the Himalayan range were much more towards the eastern side. So they were telling us that in several years, in several decades, in fact, there were no big earthquake that had taken place in this Himalayan plain. And that's the reason why, what perhaps explains that we had seen the Sikkim earthquake, which took place 2 years back. Now the earthquake that has taken place in Nepal and Kathmandu, and one more earthquake is taking place in this very same region. It's a very, very sensitive area which falls within Zone 5. Some of these areas, cities like Kathmandu, one of the Indian cities, of course, Guwahati in northeast is on Zone 5. Srinagar in North India is also in Zone 5. And these are cities which are extremely crowded. There are a lot of buildings that are there in these cities, indiscriminate construction, and that makes all these cities extremely vulnerable to such earthquakes. And any earthquake which is above 6 on the Richter scale, the one that took place was 7.9 last time. Right. Today it is 7.1. These are huge, massive earthquakes, and that can trigger huge amount of destruction in case there are, a certain amount of seismic technology is not followed in creation of these buildings.
Right, Indrajit, stay on with us. The pictures on our screens describe the tectonic plates, the movement of which causes these tremors. Now, what seems to have happened now is that the Indian plate has probably shifted towards the Eurasian plate, causing massive and powerful earthquakes in Afghanistan and Nepal. We're also getting another update saying that the 7.4 earthquake that hit Nepal was followed by another powerful tremor measuring close to 6.2 on the Richter scale, which means that aftershocks are still continuing in this region. Remember, Nepal was the epicenter of a powerful earthquake that hit the region on the 25th of April. The death toll in that earthquake crossed 8,000. More than 17,000 people were injured in that powerful earthquake. Now, big aftershocks jolt Nepal after today's earthquake. Aftershocks measuring 6.2 on the Richter scale, which means after that first earthquake that was felt in Nepal that measured 7.4 on the Richter scale, it was followed by another powerful jolt measuring 6.2, which means aftershocks are continuing. In fact, the last time that we reported that massive earthquake from Nepal, there were several aftershocks that were reported through the day. Now, we're being told that there were basically two earthquakes that were reported today. One in Afghanistan measuring 6.9 on the Richter scale, the other in Nepal measuring 7.4 on the Richter scale, which also explains why the tremors were felt across North India, from Rajasthan in the west to West Bengal in the east. There were powerful jolts that were felt by the entire North Indian region. The pictures that we're getting you are, in fact, from offices where people were asked to evacuate the buildings following the tremors. People started queuing up and walking down the stairs. Now, it is usually advised that people start walking out of high-rise, but of course, they need to ensure that there is no panic on the ground to ensure safety of others. Powerful earthquake being reported from the east in Nepal, from the northeast in Nepal and west in Afghanistan. Let's get a word from Rohit Singh, our correspondent, who's with us on the phone line from Patna. Rohit, what's the situation like in Bihar? The last time that there was a powerful earthquake, Bihar also felt quite a few tremors, and there were close to 30 people who were reportedly killed in those tremors.
Well, Pasha, Simi, at the last time the earthquake hit...
We'll try and reconnect with Rohit Singh. Rohit Singh, of course, is our correspondent in Bihar, and he'll get us an update on the ground situation. The last time there was a powerful earthquake that hit Nepal, there were massive aftershocks that were felt in the Indian state as well. The Nepal tragedy spilling into India, where close to 30 people were reported dead. Indrajit Kundu is still with us on the phone line. Indrajit, you've been getting us reports from Kolkata, also explaining to us the entire tectonic shift of plates, how the Indian plate, if there is any movement towards the Eurasian plate, it would create tremors in the entire North Indian region, which also explains why there were two powerful earthquakes, one in Nepal and the other in Afghanistan.
Well, that's right. These tectonic plates, the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate, are always in movement. And what geological scientists have been telling us is that the Indian plate tends to move northwards towards the Eurasian plate, and it is below the Eurasian plate. It moves below the Eurasian plate. And when similar movements take place, and when the movements are pretty drastic, that is when all these quakes are triggered. Now, the area where this the plate is going underneath the Eurasian plate is where it's called the hypocenter, and right above the hypocenter is the epicenter of the quake, where the energy moves on to the surface, and then it moves on as a ripple across the entire region. And that's the reason why, even though the quake epicenter is in Nepal, the tremors were felt right across North India, across Delhi, across the west in Rajasthan, and in east in northeastern states and in West Bengal. So these tremors keep on moving, and one can also expect similar aftershocks that will now be triggered after the 7.1 earthquake, but these aftershocks will be lower in magnitude, and slowly it will go down. So over the next 72 hours, one can expect several aftershocks in this entire region. There's something that is very normal, something that geoscientists say is going to happen as the energy slowly dips. Now, as far as updates from Bengal is concerned, we are getting reports from North Bengal that train services have also been disrupted. There are routine checks that are being taken place on the train tracks by Eastern Railway, so that there is no cracks. Similarly, the underground metro service in Kolkata has also been suspended for the time being, and according to the standard operating procedure, the tracks will now be checked, and only when there are no cracks that are found and it is safe for the services to resume, that the Metro Rail authorities will once again resume services. Back to you.
Indrajit, stay on with us. Let's also get a word from Jugal Purohit. Jugal, of course, had also travelled to Nepal the first time, that after that first earthquake that hit Nepal, he travelled to different parts of the country to figure out the extent of damage. Jugal, another powerful earthquake hits Nepal once again, 7.4 on the Richter scale. We're being told that the epicenter was close to the Everest base camp. Can you explain to us the possible impact that such an earthquake would have in the region, which is still trying to recover or come to terms with the damage that it witnessed the last time?
Well, Simi, first and foremost, the impact is psychological. The most, while we were there in Nepal, we saw that even when there were no tremors, people would rush out of buildings and would refuse to go back in for a very, very long time. And now this, you're talking about a tremors of 7.1 on the Richter scale. That's what is the reading that I have got. And this is obviously quite a severe one. Speaking about the impact on ground, what has happened is that there are several buildings which have sustained cracks. There are several establishments which are damaged. One will have to wait and watch as to what happens to them, but they are the ones who are the most vulnerable to any tremors of this intensity, and that's what's happened today. Speaking about the other areas, this particular earthquake, the epicenter, given to understand, is Namche Bazaar, which is basically a small village that those who trek to the Mount Everest encounter on their way. It's a 3 to 4 day trek from the nearest point of Lukla, where from you can take flights and reach. And Namche Bazaar is en route to the trail of Mount Everest. That's where this epicenter lies in this particular case. And we were there in those areas, Simi, owing to the fact that the population density is much lesser as we in comparison to an urban area. The damage is not so much, but most of the construction in rural Nepal, in rural parts of India, of course, also is largely made of stones and is largely made of weak structures and weak materials, which are the most susceptible to any sort of earthquake. And that's what we had seen when we moved around in the interior areas, that buildings which were made of stones, buildings which were made of rudimentary artifacts were the ones which were most vulnerable. And as I said, that the impact will be psychological, impact will be physical. Of course, it's too early to get a full-blown assessment of just what Nepal has seen right now and what's the physical impact of the same. But make no mistake, the people are battered, the people are scarred right now, and this perhaps couldn't have come at a worse time.
Absolutely, Jugal. Of course, one of the other reasons why experts are fearing massive damage is because it's believed that this earthquake wasn't very shallow. Now, when in a situation like this, there is more damage to surrounding areas.
Well, Simi, the first earthquake that we speak about, April 25th, was at a depth of nearly 2 kilometers. That is what shallow is. This particular one, we are given to understand, has occurred at a depth of 19 kilometers below the surface of Earth. So, in a sense, it is a bit deeper than what the earlier one was. The impact, of course, will be a little lesser as compared to the earlier one, because the intensity too is much lesser than the first one. But as I said, a place already devastated, buildings already, wearing on them several cracks and several broken areas. This is quite a big one. And as I said, psychologically also for battered, for scarred people, this is quite a big one to speak of. Only on Sunday did Nepal experience 2 very major tremors, which I was given to understand had impacted a lot of places and properties in Nepal. And now this one coming barely 48 hours in succession to that.
Absolutely, Jugal. And people in Delhi also obviously completely shaken up after what they saw the last time. There were no casualties, but as you said, the impact is more psychological. What are the kind of scenes that you're seeing in the national capital? We do know that lots of people were rushed out of high-rise buildings. Were metro services also affected because of the tremors?
Well, Simi, I've been moving around in the central Delhi area since the time this particular earthquake was felt and observed. The traffic, the scenario outside where there are open spaces seems to be absolutely normal. Most people who I spoke to perhaps didn't even register this earthquake, neither did I. I was seated inside a building.
All right. Jugal, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Hold that thought. We're going to come to you in just a bit. I believe we have Mr. Harbans Singh, Director General of the Geological Survey of India, on the phone line with us. Mr. Singh, thanks so much for speaking to Headlines today. What information can you give us about these 2 earthquakes that have been reported from Afghanistan and Nepal?
Actually, right now it is very difficult to give in details, but as per the available information, the earthquake came around in Nepal, near to border of the China that is some Kudari place is there.
Yes.
And that intensity of the earthquake is measured at 7.4.
All right.
And the depth of that, the available information is around 19 kilometers at the depth.
All right. And sir, there was another parallel earthquake that was reported in Afghanistan, I believe, measuring 6.9 in the Richter scale. Did these two earthquakes happen simultaneously?
Right now, I don't have that information. I am not having.
Okay.
After some time, whenever this information will be available with me, then I can reply.
All right. And Mr. Singh, we're also being told that that earthquake in Nepal measuring 7.4 on the Richter scale was followed by another tremor measuring 6.2, which means that aftershocks will continue as they did like the last time.
There is a possibility to continue of the tremors because the time to time along that, whereas that this incident has taken place. So what happens? There is the energy released time to time along that fault plane or ruptured plane, wherever it is taken place. So it is time to time the energy will be released and the tremor will come time to time.
Right. And Mr. Singh, what are the kind of precautions that people living in these affected areas should take after these tremors? What would you advise them?
As such, according to my advice, they have to, because you see in Nepal already that that house already weakened because of the earlier tremors. So they definitely take precautions when any tremors comes. They should not go inside, especially when it is night or somewhere. There is a possibility of damage further. Because that sometimes the loose structure is weakened because of that earlier earthquake. There is a possibility of fall down of that weak structure.
All right, Mr. Harban Singh, thanks so much for speaking to Headlines today. There was a Director General of the Geological Survey of India explaining to us how this entire system works, saying that it's advisable for people to not venture inside buildings, considering that they may have been affected or fractured because of the powerful tremors.